You're listening to Bear Necessities, the podcast all about Coventry Bears Rugby League. Coming up on this week's show, we've got the post-match reaction and analysis from the Bears' heartbreaking 30-28 defeat away to All Golds, a game that was packed full of positives for the Bears but ultimately ended in an agonising defeat. And there's also a quick look ahead to the visit of London scholars to the Butts Park Arena next week. There's more of your questions for our own Mr. C, and we've got another roar from the Bears community. Here we go. Well, how cruel can sport be? Yes, this is the Bear Necessities podcast, a podcast all about Coventry Bears Rugby League. I'm one of your hosts, Dave Musson, sat here in a pretty dejected mood after seeing Bears agonisingly slip to a 30-28 defeat away to All Golds. And sat with me is my co-host, Mr. Craig Cathcart. Craig, that was a tough one to watch, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm a bit lost for words, Dave. It was a game that Bears were in control of all the way through. We'll go into it in a minute, but it was up to a certain point. We were brilliant today, but really hard to take.
So let's go through the story of the game. Very, very much a game of two halves. If ever the type of match that cliche become known for, it is this. So Bears' first half were essentially flawless. They were 16-0 up at half-time and probably the best performance they've put in all season. They started with some incredible defensive sets and just looked comfortable and assured throughout. They had a try disallowed after about a quarter of an hour. Hayden Freeman in the corner was adjudged to have knocked on, but they didn't let it get to them, and they did score just about halfway through the first half. Matt Reid eventually finishing the try after some great hands, but the try was made by a superb 40-20 from Paul Emanuele to set the Bears up position-wise. That was converted, took the Bears out to 6-0, and they kept at the hard work, they kept at the big sets, and they scored again not long after a half hour. Emanuele again crucial. He was the try scorer this time. He intercepted the ball just in front of the Bears line and he ran the length of the pitch to score, take it out to 10-0. And the Bears weren't done. They scored again before half time, with Chris Barrett scoring over on the right side and the conversion taking it to that 16-0 score at half time. So we were expecting a response from All Golds in the second half, and we duly got one. All Golds came out and scored to take it to 16-6, but then Bears hit back with another try of their own, arguably the try of the match. Emanuele again, the instigator, he chipped it forward. Brad Delaney recovered superbly, passed inside to Mikey Russell, who scored under the sticks, and the conversion took that to 22-6. Bears still looking by far the better team, and All Golds looked rattled. Their kickoff went out on the full, and we very nearly went close in the corner again. Just denied with a last minute tackle, but then All Golds hit back with another try of their own, taking it to 22-12, and then this seesaw game hit again. Bears scored yet again, more work down the left edge, more good work from Matt Reid, and Hayden Freeman got the try that he really did deserve, and the conversion took that to 28-12, and Bears were very much looking in control at that point. Paul Emanuele tried a drop goal not long after that. It wasn't as successful. And then it all started to unravel, final quarter of the game. All Golds scored 3 converted tries to take it to 30-28. But Bears got the ball back and got some position with a couple of minutes left. They were awarded a penalty on about the 40-metre line, which they attempted to kick at. Unfortunately, the attempt was unsuccessful. Bears still had time to get the ball back after that, and they were awarded another penalty in front of the posts. This time went for it. It didn't pay off. And the final score was 30-28 in the All Golds' favour. Don't worry about that noise, that's just a tractor carrying some hurdles in the background, it's all good. So yes, agonising defeat for the Bears to have been in such a commanding position, to have played so well and come away with nothing, very hard to take. And this is what head coach Tom Sang made of it all after the game. Okay, I'm joined by Bears head coach Tom Sang. Tom, I mean, at 60 minutes I had lots of great questions that I was desperate to ask you about, and the last 20 minutes has just completely turned the game on its head. I mean, how do you take a game like that when there are so many positives to take from it, and yet we've come away with nothing?
Yeah, I'm devastated, mate. Like there are positives, but there's just hidden so deeply beneath that last 20 minutes that it's very difficult right now to be able to dig them out and have a think about what they are. But yeah, it's been us all year. So that's 3 games now where we've lost it in the last 5 minutes. South Wales away, Workington at home, and then today, where I don't know whether there's a bit of that sort of that fear of failure, where the lads don't really fully believe that they're capable, although they are. I thought that we were really, really diligent to stick to what our game plan was in the first half, which was to work over their middle unit, where their biggest threat was their hooker, and then target their right edge defence with Matt Reed and Kieran Sherratt on our left, and that was absolutely brilliant and worked for us. If we didn't make any breaks or anything, then we just kick to the corners and defend off the back of it. And for 40 minutes, we really, really did that. And my question to the guys after the game was what happened in their minds at 20 minutes to go, and they said that they felt that they'd won it. And so at that point, there's questions to be asked about where they are in mentally, and obviously whether it's complacency or a bit of self-doubt, whichever way that is. I don't think anyone will know for sure, but either way we need to rectify that quickly, because the time's running out for the season. But it's frustrating, because I know the talent in the group, and I know that what we can put together when we stick to the game plan that myself and the coaches put together, it works. But we're too easy to work hard for periods of time and then think that we've earned the right then to do something different, because it might be more enjoyable to play in a different way. But we need the discipline to stick to what's actually working in the first place, and get to a point where we've won a game comfortably and confidently, and then further down the line we might change things. But when we put forward a game plan that is and that game plan is proven to be working, we just need to stick to that.
Yeah. And I've got to ask about the decision to not kick for the second penalty at the end, because obviously tried for the one that was slightly further out, and then certainly the response in the stands was from both sets of supporters was a lot of surprise that we didn't go for the kick. I mean, was that a decision made on field? Was that your call to go for the try?
The first decision was definitely mine.
Yeah.
I did the second one. I did say go again, because we'd had a lot of joy down our left edge, their right edge, and I felt that even with just one or two plays, we'd stretch them even just the play before that, and we almost scored. That was what gave away the penalty, because they held on after the break. That if we just came back that side with Matt Reed one-on-one with their second in defender, we would have scored. But at that point we made a decision off the penalty to come to the right hand side of the field, and that was the in my opinion anyway, that was the wrong decision, not the deciding to run the ball. It was the fact that we ran the ball and went the wrong side of the field, where there was no space, there was no opportunity. And that's kind of sums up the last 20 minutes of the game. We were getting so much joy down our left hand side. Every time the ball went that way, we were either getting a quick play of the ball, a break, or we scored a try. But when the going got tough, for some reason we didn't go that way, which was where the opportunity was, and that's what's frustrating.
And I guess that comes down to on-field leadership and having some, not necessarily more experienced heads in there, but just some cool heads who are a bit more aware of what's going on and can dictate play from the middle.
Yeah, I mean the guys are on the field that make the decision. We give them a framework to play within.
Yeah.
We give them tactically, we give them a game plan to try and execute. But at the end of the day, they're the guys with their ball in their hands, and so they're the guys that are making the decisions when they get the balls in play. And yeah, we can sort of debate what it is that they need to change to get better outcomes, but and that's what we try and do week to week in our video sessions and in our training sessions, is to try and learn from our mistakes. And the problem is we've been making mistakes and we haven't done enough learning is probably the problem this year. Yeah. That combined with a whole host of other things, like the consistency of the lineup and injuries and players that we've signed in pre-season not being with us now, and all sorts of things. But yeah, we like I said at the start, it's just I'm pretty down about this one, as you can tell.
Yeah. I think. Well, I don't think we all feel it as much as you, but we certainly echo it. Looking ahead to next week, I know this is obviously going to be you're going to have to go through this one again to decompress and get the players set for the visit of London next week. I mean, what do you take going into that game? Because obviously there's a week off afterwards, so it's a chance to try and get this Shield campaign back on track. What's going to be in the plan for this week?
Yeah, so I mean we'll do what we always do, which is pick ourselves up first of all, get to training Tuesday. We'll watch a bit of video. We'll try and, like I just said before, try and learn from those mistakes. I'll highlight the areas where we probably made wrong decisions and go through with the players what other options were available to us and how we could have found ourselves a different outcome. Same again on Thursday, and go from there. I think the challenge will be this was another really sort of tough one for all of us involved to take. So it's how quickly we can get that behind us, in terms of the raw emotion of it, and look at it with a bit of a cooler head and try and make those improvements. But time's running out for us this year. We still are confident in ourselves that we're as good as any team, certainly in the Shield competition, and we should be looking to win every game, and we should have won today. But it's probably at this point it's probably a mental thing as to what's holding us back.
Well, Tom, really appreciate you taking the time to talk after such an agonising match, and fingers crossed we can have more of a smile on our face next week.
Yeah, no problem at all.
Okay, so that was the thoughts of the head coach Tom Sang. So Craig, I mean, at half time we were both eulogising about what brilliant showing the Bears had put in, and both saying that it was easily the best we'd seen all season. And even with 20 minutes to go, I still was pretty confident that we'd be talking about our second win in a week. Difficult to find the words to sum that game up, really.
Really hard. I mean, we're sat opposite the scoreboard here. It's still showing 30-28, and that really hurts. I mean, the first half was the best performance for half that the Bears have put in all season. I mean, defensively they were excellent, creative going forward. Players were putting in a lot of effort, and the all goals just didn't look in it. And I mean, even up to 60 minutes, the Bears still looked in control. And then the momentum swung away at the end. I mean, it's hard to explain what happened. I mean, I don't want to go on about the referee, but there was one or two, let's just say, odd decisions that seemed to go against the Bears at crucial moments as well. And a couple, perhaps even being harsh, a couple of decisions that the Bears made as well, where they could have chosen a different option that might have worked for them. But I mean, at times the rugby from the Bears was scintillating. I mean, Paul Emanuele in the first half and was just superb. There was hard work from everyone across the pitch. I mean, up to 60 minutes, everyone put an effort in. The momentum just went with the all goals near the end, and it looked, they thought they were going to get out of jail, and they did. As I said, it's hard to pinpoint when the actual turning point of the game was. There was a drop goal from Paul Emanuele that he missed. Not saying that was the turning point, but that was the point in the game when things swung the other way. And I'm not saying if that had gone over, things might have been different, but certainly all goals really came back strong at the end, and they put in some hard yards and managed to snatch the win in the end, which was, fair play to their guy who converted the tries, because he was turning 4 points into 6 every time. But I don't want to dwell too much on the negatives. There was some really positive performances from the Bears today. Kieran Sherritt was excellent today. Paul Emanuele was just brilliant. I mean, he's just a joy to watch. He's exactly what the Bears have been missing this season. His handling, his kicking, his passing is just superb. He works brilliantly with Brad Delaney. Zach Williams again worked tirelessly in defence. Every time there was a third tackler in, it was him. Jack and Brad again worked hard taking the ball up. James Gertens worked really hard. Both Bears centres, Matt Reid played brilliantly. There was a lot of great attacking play from his side of the field. And, the back three played well as well. I can't really fault the effort of the players. They'll feel desperately unlucky that they didn't win the game.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, we could quite easily have listed every individual member of the Bears team as having a standout game today, because there were so many good performances. And it was just that last 20 minutes, it just felt like All Golds had Bears in a chokehold, and as soon as they got a sniff of it and got a sense that they might actually be able to claw it back from being in such a perilous position at half time, they really did just snuff out everything Bears tried to do. It was just so agonising that in those last 2 minutes, when Bears did get the ball back and get the position, the first penalty was a difficult kick. I don't think I think both you and I looked at each other and sort of took an intake of breath and thought I wouldn't have tried to attempt that.
Yeah.
And then the second one, I think everyone was just as surprised that we didn't actually go for the points that time. But obviously, they felt like they wanted to go for the win, and it didn't pay off. That's sports.
It felt, Dave, that there was a bit more time in the game. I think, personally, I would have said kick. That it was a kickable kick near the end. It would have drawn the game. But I think we both thought there was probably a couple of minutes left when Bears were attacking. The hooter went. That's the way it goes sometimes. You've got to judge the game and try and, take your points when you can. And, perhaps Bears should have kicked it at the end. But they did more than enough to win the game. You can't look at decisions like that and say that's what cost the Bears the game. It was one of those where the Bears were most definitely the better team. All Golds will feel so happy that they went away with a win here. It's another one of these performances where you're looking at what the Bears have done today and thinking they really are better than where their position in the table says they are. At times they were brilliant today. I mean, that Paul Emanuele run where he ran the length of the field was just superb. And the chip over which Mikey scored onto the post is one of the tries of the season. So not going to dwell on it too much. There's a big game against London next week, and the Bears have got to take heart from their performance in the first 60 minutes today, and just push on from that. I mean, they've got to build on that and just put in these performances for the rest of the season, and more points will come. Yeah,
reasons to be cheerful, even if it doesn't quite feel like it right now. And I think we should point out, a very vocal and hearty travelling support for the Bears today. At times it felt like the Bears support from the sideline was a lot louder than the All Gold support, and I think credit has to be given to those fans who've come down to cheer the team on.
Yeah, I mean the Bears support today was superb. That's pretty much all you could hear throughout the game. There was someone in the All Golds crowd who just kept shouting forward pass every 5 minutes, which was a bit odd, but you could really hear the passion from the Bears fans today, and they'll be devastated they didn't win, but you know what, they can hold their heads high because they've come here and followed the team and really given them encouragement, and let's hope for the next game, which is at home, we get a big crowd behind the Bears and supporting them.
So at this point I would normally go through all the other results from the League One Shield and League One Super 8s, but given that the game we've just watched is on a Saturday afternoon, most of them haven't come through yet, so either we'll put them in at some point in post-production, or just go and check them out yourselves and look them up online. So we'll see what happens with the results. You'll know by the time you're listening to this whether you're going to have to look them up for yourselves. But what we are going to do now is hear the latest roar from the Bears community, and this is one very close to home for you, Craig, isn't it?
Is it? Are you going to do James this week?
We are indeed, yeah. So we're going to introduce you to another member of the Cathcart family who has donned the Bears shirt with great distinction. This is Craig's brother, James.
Yeah, I started with the Bears, the original side actually, in 2001, was it? So in the first season we just played friendlies because I was at university in the city, and I really enjoyed my time with the Bears. It was really good. Favourite game was the Cup final over at Cheltenham against Hemel Stags. We won that, which was a fantastic game. And favourite player, some great players for the Bears, but one that really sticks out was Alex Brown, because he was just punches way above his weight, and I really enjoyed playing with Boomer as well, from the university days and into the early Bears days. So you always knew he had your back.
Okay, so thanks very much to James for providing his raw there. And of course, if you want your raw heard on this podcast, then do get in touch, covbearspodcast or covbearspodcast@gmail.com. Just let us know and we will find you at a game and you can record yours. It would be great to have your voice on the show. Okay, it's on to another part of the show that you can get involved in. It's on to Ask Mr. C, where we ask for your questions for my co-host, Mr. Craig Cathcart. If you've got questions you want to ask him, whether it's about rugby league, whether it's about advice for finding a future wife, we're covering all kind of things really. Just use the hashtag AskMrC on Twitter, tweet them our way at Covbears Podcast, and we'll see what we can do. So starting off with a couple of questions, both from @IamMonkeyJim. It came through last week, but we missed them for last week's show, so we've carried them over. So do you want to do these individually, or
yeah, let's do them individually.
So the first one is, where are the Bears in terms of a realistic playing budget to make a concerted effort to achieve promotion? Is it feasible for next season?
Well, I mean, I think if you look at budgets this year, you've only got to look at Toronto, and they were paying individual players probably more than the whole of the Bears budget. It's rumoured that there's players playing for Toronto that are on 100,000+ a year, so that's more than the whole of the Bears budget. Realistically, the Bears are not going to spend their way out of this division unless there are wealthy benefactors out there who'd like to invest, but it's not going to happen. The Bears have got to build gradually. They've got to bring young players through, and the crowds that the Bears are getting are decent. If they can up that year on year and get more people coming along and supporting the Bears, that brings more money into the club. I'm convinced with steady growth and building from the bottom up that the Bears will challenge. They've only been in this league for 3 years. They're playing against teams that have been around for over 100 years. So, they're, as I said, it's very hard to play in this league because of the experience that you're playing, the experienced teams that you're playing against. The teams near the top, not only are they paying more for their players, but they've got players they can pull from a big pool of players. The Bears just don't have that. But I'm convinced if the Bears keep continuing the way they're going, that they will start challenging further up the league. I think they've been really unlucky this year, and I don't think their position in the league really tells the whole story. And I think next year there will be steady growth again next year. I think if they recruit right in the summer and bring the right players in that want to play for the Bears, I'm convinced that they'll do better next year.
Okay, second question from @IamMonkeyJim. Funny that you just mentioned recruitment. So he asked, what is the recruitment of young talent like at the Bears? Are there links with schools, and how does a youngster get involved? And I think this is one thing that the Bears have been excellent at, is getting into schools and getting the name out there.
Yeah, I know that they've done loads of work with players going to schools, even going to primary schools and getting kids involved. There are junior teams from the Bears, under 13s and under 15s. I have to say I don't know a huge amount about all the work that goes on, but I know that there is 2 hubs. I think there's one at Alan Higgs Centre and there's one at the XL, where they have under 13s and under 15s doing training every week. The Bears so far, the Bears have been doing this for years. They so far have had 3 players come through from their junior teams to play for the first team. So the talent is coming through. It's a slow process though, and it's a lot of work to get young players to come through. I guess one of the problems the Bears juniors probably have is getting games. There's not many clubs in the Midlands that have junior teams running. I think it was before the Workington game they had they had teams coming from sort of all over the Midlands to come and play. The juniors were playing there. The Bears have got linked up now with Midlands Hurricanes, I believe, who are based in Loughborough. And they have junior teams and academies, and hopefully that will bear fruit in the future. I think the future of the Bears depends on getting the young talent coming through. Teams in the Heartlands up north can pick from numerous amateur clubs who really just do the work for them. They produce the talent and they can pick them off. The Bears don't have that luxury, so they've got to do it themselves. And for the last 15 years, the Bears have done a tremendous job in trying to bring young players and amateur open age players as well through to the game. And it will bear fruit in the future, and they will build on that. I mean, it was amazing yesterday to actually see that the Bears were at Broadgate. The mascot was there running races, and this is all about making people aware that the Bears are here, that they've got a junior setup, and there's other people involved with the Bears who do work in schools as well, and I'm pretty sure as I said, it will bear fruit in the future.
Mm-hmm. And one final question for you this week comes from @Warwick D Warner, and he asks, should we be live streaming our away games and putting it out on a pay-per-view basis? I feel like we might not have enough money to do that. But
yeah, I mean, it's a lovely idea. It's a good question, a lovely idea, and I think every club would be aspiring to do something like that. I think the difficulty, particularly in League One, is the facilities around different grounds. I mean, the first thing is having Wi-Fi that is good enough to be able to stream games. I know the other thing as well is, anyone with a phone nowadays can stream matches, but if you're going to charge for it, it has to be top quality, so you have to buy the equipment. Again, it's not something I have a huge amount of knowledge about, but I would expect the equipment would be several £1,000s. Mm-hmm. And then you'd have to pay someone to do it and pay for a streaming service. So, and this is pretty much finger in the air, but I would suspect you would probably need 500 to 1,000 subscribers to even make it, to break even. So, it's a lovely idea, and actually, it would be something I would love to see, but I don't think it's going to happen. One thing I would say though is that if you look on the Bears YouTube channel, the coverage of home games is absolutely superb. I mean, can't remember the name of the guy that does it, but he shares stuff on Twitter as well, and it's absolutely fantastic. We'll find out who he is and name him afterwards. But yeah. He does a brilliant job of recording every home game, and you can really, if you look at some of the matches recently, you can see some wonderful tries from the Bears in that.
Great. So if you have a question you want to ask our own Mr. C, then of course tweet it to @CovBearsPodcast using the hashtag AskMrC, and I will put the questions to Craig on future shows. Okay, so we're almost done for this week's show. A couple of things to get out of the way before we leave you, though. We're going to talk very briefly about the London Scholars game, but we also, thanks to the magic of combination of memory and technology, we have remembered the name of the person who does excellent YouTube footage for the Bears home game. So Craig, you can.
Yeah, it's Martin Watson. He's got a Twitter account, and as I said, he shares some really good stuff on there and does a tremendous job filming the home games. And
does extra little things like slow motion replays of Jack Morrison taking out 4 defenders with one run, which is always good to watch.
Yeah, and Brad Brennan's hit from last week, which again we want to plug as it's definitely worth a watch.
Yes, a good thing to watch in the aftermath of feeling miserable sat here at Old Gold Stadium. So next week, back at the Butts Park Arena, visit of London Scholars, who are one of those teams riding high in the Shield, but it's a home game for Bears, and I mean, you and I, we both fancy the Bears pretty much every week anyway, but there's a week off afterwards as well. Today has been incredibly frustrating. What better opportunity than to have a team come to Butts Park Arena and have the Bears get this game out of their system and just have another decent performance in front of the home fans.
Yeah, I mean, I said before, it's hard to know which Scholars team is going to turn up, but whether they're on form or not, they're going to have a tough game next week against the Bears. You know, hopefully we'll have a big crowd down at the Butts Park Arena, and again, I've got to be confident about the Bears. If they can just put a performance together for 80 minutes, then they'll win that game. When they look at today with the cold under the cold light of day, they'll consider that actually they played really well, and if they can just bring some of that performance into next week, they'll more than match the Scholars, and I'm really hoping for a home win.
Yeah, I'm also going to be positive. I think a home win is there for the taking for the Bears, and like you say, if they can just get that full 80 minutes performance, I think we could see something special. So I'm going for a home win. Craig, it's been tough doing this week's show, but no less enjoyable for it. I think we should say a big thank you to the All Golds for their hospitality, and also a massive thank you to our new friends at the Wolfcast Toronto guys. We haven't quite decided yet whether our interview with them will have been in this episode. Obviously by this point of the show you'll have heard whether or not, but if the Wolfcast guys have not been in this show so far, then rest assured that a very special episode featuring Craig and I talking to the guys from Wolfcast Toronto, that will be coming your way very, very soon. So until next time, Craig.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dave. Keep positive, and I'm sure we'll get a win next week.
Bare Necessities is a podcast about the Coventry Bears. It's an independent show, but it wouldn't be possible without the support and the encouragement of the club. So huge thanks to everyone at the Bears for helping us out. Come and say hi to us on Twitter, where we're at CovBearsPodcast. Tweet Craig your questions using hashtag AskMrC, and let us know if you want to have your roar heard. Don't forget to subscribe to the show in Apple Podcasts, Stitcher or wherever else, and if you like the show, leave us a rating or review and spread the word to anyone else who loves the Bears. Bare Necessities is brought to you by me, Dave Musson, and Craig Cathcart, and our theme music is by my band Wave. See you next time.